Giovanna, and this is my presentation.
Utopia on Mars by Giovanna Benavente. The year is 2016. Having received my Psych BA from FIU Online, the first thing I thought was I should probably go get a job with NASA. So I went to NASA's headquarters and they hired me on the spot. I am now the lead psychologist in charge of designing our new society on Mars. I'm so excited, but I'm also really humbled by the responsibility. My job is to use what I learned in theories of personality to design this utopian society so it will be as happy, peaceful, and productive as possible. When I went home to plan this new society, I realized that there's no reason to rely on a single theory of personality to create a perfect society. In fact, it's much more reasonable to take a broad overview of many theories and choose the best parts from each one. Behavioral and cognitive approaches are both important. Limiting our ideas about how to structure utopia to one or the other would be foolish. So, I centered my utopian design around a combination of one cognitive theory, Buddhist psychology, and one behaviorist theory, Skinner's behavioral conditioning. I carefully considered how each of these theories would impact free will in my utopian society and tried to balance individual free will with peace and harmony as much as possible. I also drew inspiration and ideas from other great psychological theorists like Freud, Jung, Horney, etc. Lastly, I took into account evolutionary psychology in order to make better decisions about how to design a utopian civilization. Buddhist psychology offers great ideas for the cognitive aspects of our utopian society. Buddhists emphasize the role of meditation practice, a cognitive exercise that helps individuals to be happier within themselves. Buddhists also use loving-kindness meditation or metta-meditation in order to develop empathy, compassion, and love within themselves. This emotional training leads to behavioral changes as well, so that people get along in a friendly, cooperative, and altruistic manner, reducing violence, competition, and conflict, while still allowing the individual to have free will. Still, even powerful cognitive training like meditation has its limitations. Since people in my society will have free will, there may be some people who simply don't want to meditate. Therefore, some Skinner-style behavioral conditioning may indeed be necessary. Firstly, rewards and punishments can be used to make sure that people are motivated to meditate in the first place. Second, there may be people who are resistant to meditation for some reason or another, who fail to develop empathy, compassion, and all the other social factors that are necessary for a utopian society. Behavioral conditioning, a system of rewards and punishments, may serve as a backup system to deal with people who might otherwise become harmful to those around them. This kind of behavioral conditioning will, to some extent, control people and limit their free will, which is why we will make it a secondary process used only as a safety net for those who really need it. There are actually some places around the world where people have already set up utopian societies based on Buddhist and behaviorist principles. Buddhist monasteries are a great example of a utopian society. The monks and nuns meditate not only while sitting, but also while washing dishes, sweeping floors, washing clothes, and counseling visitors. The monks and nuns enjoy taking care of their environment and the people around them. In a Buddhist society, there is no need to limit anyone's free will because meditators actually want to do what's best for the greater good. This is the power of the Buddhist psychology. There are also places in the world where walled-in two-cell communities have been set up. Los Horcones in Mexico is one of the most famous. The residents work cooperatively a few hours per day and choose what they feel like working on. The people live in a natural egalitarian society. In some ways, it is very similar to a Buddhist monastery. The main difference is that Los Horcones primarily uses behavioral conditioning to keep everyone behaving properly, rather than cognitive conditioning like meditation. This might seem unnecessary from the Buddhist perspective, but once the society begins to grow, it may be necessary to use behavioral conditioning to make sure that everyone's behavior is conducive to the greater good. I also took into consideration the psychological insights of people like Freud, Jung, and Horney when creating my utopian society. For example, Freud talked about the unhealthiness of repression, Jung pointed out the importance of things like the collective unconscious, and Horney observed that gender roles are often highly cultural. Therefore, my society would encourage non-repressive attitudes of openness and sharing, encourage appreciation for dreams and the collective unconscious, and allow men and women to live as they wish rather than assigning them rigid gender roles. Evolutionary theory tells us a few more things that we need to take into account while forming our society on Mars. For one thing, we know that men and women both need access to mates in order to feel happy. Therefore, we need to be careful to send a relatively even number of men and women to Mars. Additionally, we must consider how the Martian environment will affect us as creatures that evolved on Earth. Humans evolved on a lush, colorful planet, so we feel happy and healthy when surrounded by leafy green trees and cute little animals. We can see these effects even now. How do you feel in the concrete jungle compared to in a beautiful forest? Living on a rocky planet with no air is probably not very good for psychological health. For this reason, we must create a relatively Earth-like atmosphere on Mars, complete with lots of greenery, deep blue lakes, and colorful landscapes. Luckily, physicists, ecologists, and engineers have already mapped out a plan for doing this over the next 1,000 years. You can read about it in the National Geographic article pictured in this slide. In conclusion, in order to design a truly utopian society on Mars, I really had to consider the insights of several psychological theories rather than just one. Buddhist psychology provides an excellent model to produce a happy, healthy, cooperative, and productive society where the people get along peacefully and have free will at the same time, while Skinner's behaviorist principles can serve as a safety net to ensure that people continue to work well together for many generations to come. There are many other psychologists whose insights can help us form a utopian society as well. Truly, we should incorporate the best of all the great psychological theories if we want to make a utopian society that is as happy, healthy, cooperative, and productive as it can possibly be. Feel free to browse through these sources for more information.
Hope you enjoyed my presentation.